Lorraine Hemsley used to think she'd grown accustomed to silence, long, heavy, echoing silence that swallowed entire rooms. For years, she had lived tucked quietly inside the back bedroom of her son's house on Willow Bend Lane, telling herself that age was easier when one lived without expectations. But nothing prepared her for the silence that followed the sharp crack of a small hand against her cheek. It happened on a rainy Tuesday evening in the town of Briarfield, a place known for its polite hedges, well-swept sidewalks, and neighbors who said good afternoon with reflexive sweetness. Inside the red brick house that belonged to her son, however, sweetness was rationed, given to some, withheld from others. Lorraine stood in the kitchen rinsing the dishes after dinner, steam fogging her glasses as she scrubbed a stubborn patch of gravy from a plate. Behind her, her 11-year-old grandson Caleb stomped through the living room floor as he played some game on his tablet. The booming sounds ricocheted through the walls. "Caleb," she called gently, "could you please keep it down a bit, sweetheart? My head's pounding." She expected him to grumble or roll his eyes, typical, she thought, for a boy whose parents believed boundaries were restrictive. Instead, she felt something small and sudden strike her cheek. Smack. Her glasses slid down her nose. Soap suds clung to her wrist. She turned slowly. Caleb stood there, breathing hard, as if daring her to react. His cheeks were flushed with the fierce righteousness of unchecked childhood arrogance. "You don't tell me what to do," he said. At first, Lorraine thought her ears had misheard. She had raised 3 children of her own, worked at a public library for 32 years, been a pillar of patience even in the face of disobedience, but this was new. "What on earth?" She touched her cheek. Behind Caleb, 2 figures appeared in the doorway. Her son, Aaron, and his wife, Justina Aaron, laughed first. A short, amused bark. "Oh, come on, Mom. He's just irritated. Don't be so dramatic." Justina clapped her hands together lightly as if Caleb had recited a clever joke. "He's expressing himself. You know how spirited kids are." Lorraine felt the room tilt. She stood frozen with her hand on her cheek, dishwater dripping onto the floor. Caleb watched his parents, saw their approval, and smirked. And something in her chest, something she had spent years burying, shifted. A crack formed, invisible, but deep. 2 years of giving. 1 moment, taking it all back. Lorraine didn't speak. She didn't argue, didn't defend herself, didn't try to correct them. She simply turned back to the sink, resumed washing dishes with trembling fingers, and let the warm water hide how cold she suddenly felt. She had moved in with Aaron's family 6 years earlier, after her husband passed and the house felt too large to inhabit alone. At first, the arrangement seemed temporary, then months became years, and she became the quiet figure who cooked meals, folded laundry, and picked Caleb up from school. What none of them knew, because she never told them, was that she had been paying Caleb's private school tuition for the past 3 years. Stonemont Academy, with its pristine uniforms and monthly fees large enough to feed a family for weeks, was far beyond Aaron and Justina's budget, but they wanted their son there. They insisted it would reflect well on him. They claimed they had it under control, though Lois had noticed the bills piling on the kitchen counter. So she handled it. Quietly. Every month. Without fanfare, without acknowledgement, without expectation. She did it because she loved Caleb, because education mattered, because she thought maybe, just maybe, her contribution would strengthen the household rather than strain it. But standing in that kitchen, cheek stinging, heart folding in on itself, Lorraine realized something brutal. Her giving had turned her invisible. Her silence had made her expendable. And her kindness had been mistaken for permission. 3. The decision made in stillness. That night, while the others watched television in the living room, Lorraine sat on her bed, her hands folded neatly in her lap. A small lamp glowed beside her. Outside the window, rain tapped a steady rhythm against the glass. She stared at the envelope sitting on her bedside table, the one from Stonemont Academy containing the next tuition invoice, $5,000. $5,000 that she had already planned to pay. $5,000 that would strain her retirement savings, but she had been willing to do it. Until today, until a child raised with entitlement struck her, and his parents rewarded him. Lorraine picked up the envelope, opened her drawer, placed it inside. Then she reached for her phone, found the Academy's billing office number, and in a voice soft but steady said, "Hello, this is Lorraine Hemsley. I need to cancel all automatic tuition payments under my account, effective immediately." The clerk on the phone hesitated. "Mrs. Hemsley, are you sure? Your account has been very consistent." "I'm sure." She ended the call. Then, sinking back into her pillows, she closed her eyes. For the first time in years, she felt something unfamiliar wash through her. Relief 4. 3 weeks of normalcy for everyone, but the school life in the house went on as if nothing had happened. Aaron joked with Caleb. Justina gossiped on the phone. Caleb stomped through rooms, raised his voice, talked back, and gleefully ignored every request that wasn't phrased as praise. But Lorraine. She moved quietly, spoke less, spent more time tending to her small potted succulents on the windowsill. She ate meals alone when she could. She gave only what was necessary. She waited. 3 weeks later, the letter arrived. It was addressed to the parents of Caleb Hemsley and bore the polished crest of Stonemont Academy. Justina tore it open, standing in the kitchen with a spoonful of yogurt in hand. Her eyes widened. The spoon clattered into the sink. "What is this?" she shrieked. Aaron rushed over, snatched the letter, and scanned it quickly. Notice of delinquent tuition. 3 months unpaid. Student may be removed from enrollment. "What do they mean, unpaid?" Aaron's voice rose in pitch. "We don't pay the tuition." The words slipped out before he realized what they implied. Justina's face twisted with alarm. "Do they think we're the ones covering it? But... She turned sharply toward the hallway, eyes narrowing. "Lorraine!" she shouted. "We need to talk to you. Now!" Lorraine stepped into the living room, a dish towel still in hand. Aaron held up the letter. "Mom, what is going on? Why is the school saying tuition hasn't been paid in months? You've been handling it. Didn't you see the bill?" Lorraine looked at the letter calmly. "Oh, I saw it." "So why didn't you pay it?" Justina demanded, her voice trembling with fury. "Caleb needs to stay at Stonemont. This is his future we're talking about." "Yes," Lorraine said softly, "which is why I paid for his future for as long as I could." Justina blinked. "What is that supposed to mean?" "It means," Lorraine said, folding her towel carefully, "that I am no longer paying for a household that laughs when your son hits me. I will not use my savings to subsidize disrespect." Their mouths fell open. Aaron sputtered, "Mom, come on. Caleb didn't mean—" "He meant enough," she replied, "and you encouraged it." Justina stepped forward. "So you're punishing all of us because you're upset?" Lorraine shook her head. "I'm not punishing anyone, I'm simply withdrawing support from people who have made it clear they see no value in me." The silence that followed was colder than winter wind V. The beginning of consequences. That week, the school made good on its warning. With tuition unpaid and another cycle due, Caleb was officially unenrolled. His uniforms went into a donation pile. His desk at Stonemont was cleared out. 2 weeks later, he was enrolled in Briarfield Public School, a place with crowded hallways, old textbooks, and no catered lunches. Caleb hated it. He came home every day complaining loudly. No tablet time in class, teachers who expected him to listen, students who didn't treat him like royalty. But slowly, over the following month, something shifted. At public school, no one cared who his parents were. No one rewarded tantrums. No one let him speak to adults like they were beneath him. He learned, painfully at first, that he had to say, please, if he wanted help. He had to say, thank you, to borrow supplies. He had to follow rules, just like everyone else. And as Caleb struggled, something else changed in the household. Aaron began to see how much he had relied on his mother's generosity. Justina began to realize entitlement didn't make life easier, it made it lonelier. Little by little, respect, slow, awkward, clumsy respect, began to surface. It wasn't an apology yet, But it was the first shy sprout of one Caleb had never been told no so many times in his life. At Stonemont Academy, the world had revolved around him, teachers eager to please wealthy parents, classmates who admired expensive gadgets, and administrators who tiptoed around complaints. Briarfield Public School was a different universe entirely. No one cared that his backpack cost more than the average family's grocery bill. No one cared that he once had a private math tutor. No one cared that he used to get out of trouble with just a smirk. Here, he stood in the same lunch line as everyone else. He sat in the same cramped desks. He shared the same sticky, dog-eared textbooks. On the third week, his homeroom teacher, Mr. Benton, pulled him aside after class and said, "You're a smart kid, Caleb, but being smart doesn't matter if you disrespect people." "You can't talk to me like that," Caleb said, though without his usual confidence. "I can," Mr. Benton replied calmly, "and I'm going to keep doing it until you learn to listen." Caleb hated that sentence, but deep down, far down, he respected it. It was the first time he had met an adult who refused to be intimidated by him. Meanwhile, at home, life had shifted in ways his parents could no longer ignore. The bills they once assumed Lorraine paid came directly to them now. Groceries were suddenly expensive. Gas wasn't magically replenished. Caleb's extracurricular activities, robotics, theater camp, art workshops, had to be canceled, not one. All of them. Behind the financial strain was the heavier burden of guilt that Aaron tried and often failed to hide. One evening, Aaron sat alone at the dining table, staring at a stack of overdue notices. His shoulders slumped. Lorraine entered with a tray of tea. "I didn't ask for tea," Aaron said tiredly. "I know," Lorraine replied, "but you look like you need it." After a long silence, Aaron said quietly, "Mom, I didn't realize how much you were doing. Not until it all stopped. We took advantage of you. I let Justina treat you like a housekeeper. I let Caleb act like royalty. And I laughed when he slapped you. I don't know what I was thinking." "You were thinking it was easier not to correct him," Lorraine replied. "Easier for me," he whispered, "but not for you, I'm sorry." It was the first honest conversation they'd had in years. Justina's awakening came differently. She wasn't used to living without constant convenience. She wasn't used to responsibility. But life began forcing her to learn. After receiving yet another grocery bill, she stared at the half-empty pantry and felt panic tighten in her chest. No more Stonemont, no more catered lunches, no more activities, she whispered. At first she blamed Lorraine, but little by little she realized that Lorraine had simply stepped back, and the gap she left was enormous. One afternoon, Justina approached Lorraine, who was tending to her succulents. "I didn't thank you," she said stiffly. "For what?" Lorraine asked. "For everything. The tuition, the chores, the years. I never even noticed you were doing all of it. I didn't look." Lorraine gave a quiet sigh. "People see what they want to see." "For what it's worth," Justina murmured. "I'm sorry." "Thank you," Lorraine replied softly. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. But it was a beginning. Caleb was the last to change. He resisted the longest, but life kept humbling him. One day after soccer practice, he fell and scraped his knee badly. A girl from his class ran over. "You okay?" she asked. "I'm fine," he muttered. "You don't look fine." She handed him a bandage. "Here, my mom always packs extras." Caleb stared at it. "I guess." "Just say thank you," she said simply. No one had ever spoken to him that way. Calm, firm, expecting decency. Something shifted inside him. Later that week, he accidentally knocked over books in the school library. The librarian asked him to pick them up. He opened his mouth to argue, then didn't. He picked them up. It felt different, in a good way. A month later, on a rainy evening, he approached his grandmother's room. He lingered in the doorway, fidgeting. "Grandma?" "Yes, dear?" Caleb stepped inside and blurted, "I'm sorry." "For what?" she asked gently. "For hitting you. For yelling. For everything." His voice was small. "People don't like me if I act mean, and I don't like when people are mean to me either." Being kind matters. she said. "I know. Thank you for saying that," she whispered. "It means a lot." Caleb nodded, then slowly leaned in and hugged her. Lorraine's eyes filled with tears as she wrapped her arms around him. From that day forward, things changed. Caleb began helping with chores, awkwardly at first, then more confidently. Aaron picked up weekend shifts to shoulder expenses. Justina cooked dinner once a week. Badly, but sincerely, and they no longer expected Lorraine to silently hold the household together. They asked her, they thanked her, they included her. For the first time in years, she felt she belonged. One evening, she was watering her plants when Caleb approached with a small envelope. Inside was a handwritten note. "Thank you for loving me even when I forgot how to love you back. I'm trying to be better. I will be better. Caleb." "Do you mean this?" she whispered. He nodded. She pulled him close, tears slipping down her cheeks. "Then that is all I ever needed." Months later, at the Briarfield Spring Festival, Caleb introduced her proudly to his friends. "This is my grandmother, she's awesome." Lorraine smiled, deeply, peacefully. She had reclaimed her dignity and her place in the family, not by shouting, "not through anger," but by standing quietly strong and refusing to be invisible any longer, and for the first time in years, she felt truly home.